have met with all three of the candidates as of about Tuesday of this week. And I want to say clearly, I like and respect all three of the Republican candidates in the field. I particularly want to commend Donald Trump, who I think has given voice to the frustration of millions of working Americans with a lack of progress in Washington, D.C. I'm not against anybody, but I will be voting for Ted Cruz.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, perhaps the worst endorsement of all time, as we discussed last week. Michael Barone, senior political analyst with the Washington Examiner, co-author of the Almanac of American Politics, and Fox News contributor, joins us. Hello, Michael.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you very much. All right, first of all, keep that endorsement in mind if you want to. And how is it going to turn out tomorrow in Indiana, do you believe?
Well, I think all the indications are that Ted Cruz is not likely to be as successful in Indiana as he was a month ago in Wisconsin. It's a somewhat different state, somewhat different demography. And while he had strong endorsement, Governor Scott Walker in Wisconsin, and from talk show hosts in Milwaukee media market, he got only a tepid endorsement from Governor Mike Pence, in Indiana, and the talk radio has not been as anti-Trump there as it is in Wisconsin. So, barring a surprise, Donald Trump will win in Indiana.
Now, you wrote a piece the other day that Donald Trump is not the presumptive nominee, not yet anyway. If your prediction comes to fruition tomorrow, would he then be the presumptive nominee in your view?
Well, I'd have to crunch the numbers down to see whether he's likely to get 1237. I think he would probably be the presumptive nominee. I think that you want to leave a little bit open what's going to happen in California, because we've got 172 delegates up for grabs, 159 of them in 53 congressional districts, 3 each. About half those congressional districts are overwhelmingly Democratic. There are just a small number of Republican voters. Should Donald Trump win in Indiana, as I expect he'll carry most of those congressional districts. But I ain't sure. I'm not sure which way it'll go. And one thing I think this year has taught all of us is to keep our minds open to possibilities that seem unlikely.
Is one of those possibilities, again, assuming, working on the premise of a loss tomorrow and looking ahead to California, say Trump does come up short at the convention for whatever reason, and say he doesn't pick Rubio as his running mate to get the needed delegates. Let's say he's short on the first ballot. Is Ted Cruz likely to be the nominee of this party under any circumstances, do you believe?
Well, I think if Donald Trump is visibly short of 1237 and doesn't get there, the likely nominee is Ted Cruz. In that set of circumstances, Cruz would have a lot of delegate support, enough really to keep it from flowing, I think, to anybody else. And he would have had to have made a case against Trump that would have, in our hypothetical, proved persuasive to an awful lot of Republican voters. And to have held Trump below the 50% mark,
right.
Donald Trump says getting 50% of the delegates is just an arbitrary number. It's not an arbitrary number. It means that you have more for you than are against you, and that's a pretty basic number that we use often to make decisions in our electoral system.
Talk about California a little bit, looking ahead to California. The polls there at this early stage, from what I've seen, are pretty good for Donald Trump as well. Do you think Ted Cruz has a good chance out there?
Well, if California votes like New York, Ted Cruz does not have a good chance out there, obviously, because Donald Trump carried all but one of the 27 congressional districts in New York, including a lot that are heavily Democratic and have relatively few registered Republicans. I think California is somewhat different, but I'm not sure how different. You've got 53 congressional districts there, 3 delegates apiece in the Republican National Convention from each one of them. You've got about 24 of those districts of the 53 were 65% or plus for Barack Obama. In other words, there ain't many registered Republicans there. Only 29% of California voters are registered Republicans, and it's going to obviously be a lot less. Those Hispanic districts, majority districts, I think Cruz has a chance of carrying Hispanic districts in California that have very few registered Republicans. If you look at the results in some other states, his name, his ethnic identification,
right.
has helped him at least marginally there. There are no California districts with black majority of voters. Trump has done very well in neighborhoods among Republican voters in districts with black majorities.
So it's going to be very, very interesting. Nobody breaks it down like you, Michael. Thank you, my friend. We'll speak to you soon.
Excellent.
Michael Barone, ladies and gentlemen. The Malzberg panel is up next, but first, at 10 p.m. tonight, we're covering the NRA Town Hall hosted by the Executive Vice President of the NRA, Wayne LaPierre. Of course, he's an outspoken critic of Obama's gun control policies. Once again, that's tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern Time only on Newsmax Television. We are coming back with the panel.